Donald Trump sucks. So I'm going to try to summarize all of my thoughts about Trump from the beginning to the end, including the future. Why? Partly because I want to say that I said it, I called it when it happens, the future, what's coming, and also because I think it might benefit somebody who maybe it might wake them up if they're listening and they support Trump. Also because I guess it might be nice for someone to relate to if they're also annoyed at Trump. I watch maybe 5 hours a day of what's going on in the world right now with the virus and with Trump, and I am kind of annoyed at certain questions that I hear again and again from people online where they're like, reporters, why does he do this? Why do people listen to him? And the short answer, which I just wish I could tell them if I had them as an audience, if I could just tell them, they listen to him because he gives quick, easy answers like, oh, don't worry, the virus doesn't exist. Oh, don't worry, climate change doesn't exist. Because life would be just easier if that was true. It isn't just that Trump supporters are uneducated, because there's educated people who support him. I think the main characteristic is that he gives them simple, easy solutions, right? Just blame the black man, or whatever the hell it is. It's easier. Feed their rage. That's what every cult leader does. On the subject of Trump doubting science, knowing better than science, it just shows that he doesn't know what science is. Science is not saying, if you say that there's a pink elephant with polka dots standing behind me, and I say science says that's not true. Okay, well, science isn't really saying there isn't an elephant with pink polka dots behind me, but it's saying all signs point to that not being so. It is highly unlikely, that there's an elephant in your dresser drawer. Science isn't saying that Noah didn't build an ark, so much as it's saying all signs show that it would be it seems impossible to build an ark. We can't find a way that one person could build an ark, and so on. The other thing is, if you don't believe in science, right, then you shouldn't use a cell phone, because you shouldn't believe in what led to its existence. If you don't believe in science, do you ever wonder how a cell phone works? Like, isn't that crazy? You shouldn't use automobiles, you shouldn't use fossil fuels, because you shouldn't believe in dinosaurs, right? It's the same method that decides that climate change is real. That's the same method that also allows you to use a microwave or watch a television. But I guess they don't doubt science when it works for them. They just doubt it when it says things like they can't make as much money because of climate change. But you don't see the climate change deniers saying, oh, well, there's no fires in California right now, so we're just going to go right into the heart of it because we don't believe in climate change, right? Oh, they believe in it. They'll get out of the way when there's a hurricane. If a doctor tells you need surgery in order to live, are you going to tell him that you just disagree because it just doesn't make sense? Are you going to explain to the doctor that he doesn't understand what surgery is and you do? Another thing is, okay, like Aristotle, a philosopher from 3,000, 2,500 years ago, there was so little knowledge out there in the world that he may very well have known everything there is to know at that time. However, science has exploded and developed to the point where you could never know everything about even one tiny little scientific field. For example, physics, particle physics, quantum physics, molecular physics. And even those have probably 100 branches within them where people specialize. They spend their whole lives learning about them. So are you going to argue with a quantum physicist that bosons aren't real and leptons are actually, they might be real, but not so much bosons? Or things even more, really. You're going to argue with an expert in their field when you know nothing about that subject. It would almost be like challenging a mixed martial artist to say that you could beat him up in a fight while you sit on your couch, you're overweight, and you don't even know how to fight. You've never been in a fight. You don't know the first thing about it, and you're yeah. So in other words, leave the viruses to the people who have specialized their entire lives in viruses. Listen to their expertise because they're experts. Don't decide that you know more than them about viruses. Basically, only a very uneducated person would argue with an expert that they know more than them in their field. You don't challenge Bobby. You don't think you could beat Bobby Fischer in a chess game just by practicing chess for a month. I used to joke about it, how like, you think if I spent an hour on hockey, like, and I worked really hard, like really, really hard, I spent an hour a week on hockey, you think I could make it into the NHL at the age of 42? And I've never skated before? But that's the kind of way idiots think. And I've met many of them. I met a guy who thought he could make a movie having no experience with it. Or a guy who thought he knew more than me about classical music, and he didn't even know when the classical period was. And I think the thing about Trump that he also has this in common with his fans is that he doesn't specialize in anything. He's never achieved the level of expertise or mastery of any one thing, especially business, especially not business. And a lot of his fans, probably the only thing they've ever gotten good at is, I don't know, working as a carpenter or doing some manual labor that doesn't really acquire any expertise, really. These people think of scientists as nerds who just can't get laid, so they're just really nerdy, and that's all there is to them. There is a term called the Dunning-Kruger effect, based on a study they did where they found that the more educated someone is, the less confident they tend to be, because they're so humbled by how much knowledge there is out there. The more you learn, the more you know you don't know. And on the opposite end, the less somebody knows, the more arrogant they are, because they've got no idea about how little they know. Which is why Trump thinks he's a genius for remembering person, woman, man, camera, TV. I remember someone on the news said, with that test that he took, if you brag about passing that test, just by virtue of bragging that you passed it, means you failed the test. So now on to his cult and his fans. Fan is short for fanatics. I don't think it's that they're uneducated so much as that the way a cult works is he gives you easy solutions. Nobody wants to believe the earth is round. I mean, that's just not as much fun as thinking that it's the earth is the whole universe, and it makes us all feel more important. You know, just like Lord of the Rings, where, Middle Earth is the whole universe, and you could be Neo in the Matrix, like you're the chosen one. It makes you feel very small to think that the earth is round and it's just in the middle of space. It's not an easy idea. It sucks, kinda. It's depressing and scary to a degree. And, way back when, it was easier to think that, when a kid went crazy and killed a bunch of people, it's because he's a Satanist, rather than because he had abusive parents, or he was growing up in a town that was screwed up. It's easier to think that it's some evil guy's fault, rather than to be like, you know what, it was all of us, including ourselves. Right? All these conspiracy theories are basically like, oh, don't worry, the world isn't meaningless and random. It's all very simple, and it works like this. Oh, and incidentally, I once heard a good point about conspiracies, is that when you argue with a conspiracy theorist, if you poke a hole in their conspiracy theory, all they'll do is just say, well, that's part of the conspiracy. So they just incorporate whatever you're saying. Oh, but they want you to think that. So it's kind of like hopeless. And I know a lot of people who are in relationships that are like cults. I call them a cult of two, cult of one, where like the boyfriend lies to the girl, tells the girlfriend BS, abuses her, and I had someone ask me, why does she put up with this loser? Like, he's ugly, he's stupid, he's arrogant. What does she see in him? And I'm like, He tells her things that nobody else will tell her. He tells her, don't worry, just stick with me and we're going to be happy and you can get that unicorn you've always wanted. And don't listen to people when they tell you you'll never be able to have a unicorn. So they make the false promise, and that's what little Trump does. Just don't worry about the virus, just listen to me and everything's going to work out. It's going to magically disappear. It's a very comfortable way of living, and to be honest, I think all of us wish we could just give up our wills and have somebody make all the decisions for us, because it sucks having to figure out things for yourself. But unfortunately, that's what adulthood is all about. And also, more often than not, when you meet somebody who's a know-it-all, they tend to be steering you in a really ignorant, destructive direction, because that's just the nature of people who bullshit. I don't trust anybody who says they know everything. I just get to the point where I just look at them and I go, oh, you're one of those people who knows everything. And I just kind of laugh at them, and they're done. I have no interest. I'm not very educated, but I was lucky enough to have a friend who's a philosopher and a professor. And so he taught me a few little concepts that really helped me, tools of thinking. And one of them was, sophists were before the philosophers, the Socratics. Sophists did not believe in truth. They just believed it's all about rhetoric. It's all about convincing the other person that you're right. And truth is all just changing. Nothing's true. And then Socrates came along and said, no, there is a truth. There is a solid truth. And he put down rhetoric to a degree, and he promoted logic. And so the majority of people out there, I think, would be sophists because they don't really believe in any truth at all. It's just about what convinces them or whether they convince others. And it takes a lot of, courage to seek truth, because truth is usually not very flattering. Like, it's not very flattering for me to think that I'm not as good looking as Brad Pitt, but it's the truth. But there's a lot of people, a lot of ugly guys walking around there thinking that they should be models. And Trump is kind of the king of not caring about the truth. And I've realized he's not technically lying when he lies, because in order to lie, you have to believe in truth in the first place. He doesn't believe in any truth. He would pass a lie detector test and say 1 + 1 = 3 if it worked to his favor. The only thing that's true is what makes him feel better, what makes him feel good about himself, or what works for him. And I've known this for a few years. I mean, when he was first elected, I thought he was stupid, but he turned out to be 1,000 times dumber. And I didn't know you could be 1,000 times dumber than I thought he was. Now, my last point is that I am 100% certain that Trump loves the fact that he's causing hundreds of thousands of deaths. And I don't mean that, like, I'm not exaggerating. I don't mean that rhetorically. He gets off on it. And I'll explain. Every child gets off on their ability to cause destruction, because it's like when you're young, you think you're so unimportant, and then you finally learn, oh wait, I could break something, and then you break it, and you're like, holy, and look how many people, look how much attention I got. And pulling the wings off a fly, I never did that, but I did certain mean things like burning ants or bugs with a magnifying glass. It's that kind of fascination, like amazement that I can cause damage, that I believe is a characteristic of psychopaths, and I believe they're trapped at the age of like 4. And I think we're all trapped. That's how you become an adult. Like, I'm probably trapped at the age of 20, and I'm 42. But psychopaths are really trapped right at the age of 4, but they don't have that parent to say, no, that's wrong. So they've just gone off the rails, and that's why Trump, he's like a little kid pulling the wings off a fly and being like, wow, it's the most crudest form of making a change in the world, or of affecting others, right? I think Trump he loves negative attention even more than positive attention, in a way. And I don't think he's smart enough to realize that, because he probably just thinks he's such a great guy that, well, he would never want everybody to die. But the end result, though, is it puffs up his ego to know that he's affected this many lives. And in the book 1984, and the Big Brother was based on Stalin. I always remember at the end, the guy that's torturing the guy, Winston. He says to him, "You know what real power is? Real power is making someone else suffer. That's how you have power over somebody." And I believe that's exactly the way Trump looks at things. But I guess the main point I wanted to make in this whole thing was just that Trump loves the fact that people are dying because it has a relation to him. He loves the fact that they're dying because of him. And so I just think that's something that all these reporters should be aware of, so that they don't have to hear them constantly saying, "What is he thinking? Does he know what he's doing? Doesn't he realize that he's causing all this death?" Oh, and I'll end, I guess, with predictions for the future, as if there's another type of prediction. Well, like the Mad King, he'll want to burn it all down when he knows he's losing. He'll do everything he can to do that. A certain dictator during World War II, he wanted to destroy Berlin when he knew he was losing, right? I don't know enough about politics to know whether he'll win re-election or not. Of course I hope he doesn't, but you know what? I just have to tell myself, you know what? Even if he wins, it doesn't really matter, because everybody's going to have a fit. And if it takes them too long to have a fit, they'll learn it even... you want to learn it the hard way? I mean, I thought electing him the first time was learning it the hard way, but if you need to re-elect him to learn, you didn't learn hard enough, that's fine, and then you'll learn it, and you'll learn it once and for all. And I don't really have any predictions because I don't know politics, but I'll tell you, I hope that he spends the rest of his life in jail, and I hope his children should be chased out of town. He should be persona non grata. And I'll tell you what I think the solution is, though, for all of this. Solution is that the money system doesn't work. It breeds people like him, psychopaths, greed, selfishness, all of the ugliest things in human nature. So the economic construct needs to be replaced with something else, and I don't know exactly what that is. It might have to be, some sort of really rough communism. And another thing is that there's not just one type of communism. There's like 10, I think, or something. And there's not just one type of democracy. There's like market-based democracies and non-market-based democracies. So, don't just be so quick to put labels on democracy or communism or dictatorship. Well, dictatorship's, I think, always bad. But anyways, hope you liked the video, and this is just me trying to do my part. Okay, joy to the world. Bye.